All right, as we wrap up, community authorities and talk briefly about, you know, uh, proximal authorities, eyewitnesses. We've been talking about the importance of finding and evaluating good, trustworthy sources, and this notion of objectivity is certainly part of that, which sounds ideal, right? You want to find people that are not going to benefit necessarily from you believing them. And so you want this sense of detachment, this absence of bias and absence of prejudice, certainly, in the world that we live in today, for decision makers and, things like that. You want people that are in positions of authority and power to be people that will just make the right decisions because of the right decisions, not because they're influenced by certain organizations or companies or people are giving them money to make these sorts of legal decisions or laws and things like that. And certainly on a smaller scale for your papers and your intellectual journeys that you're going to be on in college and things like that, you want to find and align yourself with objective people. However, this notion of pure objectivity is a bit of a myth, really, in the sense of it's not really something that really exists. It's a bit of a fantasy that people really become experts, become authorities because they really care about those fields. There's no one who really spends a lifetime getting good and knowledgeable about a certain topic that they don't really care about. That I don't know if you can really ever find that sort of person. Right? And if you can, maybe don't spend a lot of time listening to what they have to say. We listen to experts because they really care about knowing this topic. They want other people to believe what they believe. They've done research. They've become experts because they care. Now, I know we live in a world that says, experts have to have degrees or they have to be published. And as we said in the last, video, sometimes that is true, especially like, for example, the field of, inoculations or, things like that. A lot of people who think, well, we'll do these vaccines. Are they more harm than they're worth and things like that? And you've got a lot of angry people on both sides of the vaccination issue who are experts, but they're not recognized as experts because they don't have legal degrees or medical degrees, rather, even though they've done research and they are passionate about fields because of, personal experiences or the lives of loved ones and things like that. So, this objectivity is kind of a chimerical notion, something that may or really not even exist. And that's okay as long as you understand that, that is an okay thing to go forward with, that these experts are experts because they care and because they want other people to believe what they believe. And if you know that, sort of like what we said, when you're using appeals to your own character, tell your audience, here's why I'm trustworthy, here's why I know this thing. The more upfront you are about your experiences, your backgrounds, your personal tastes, and your biases, the more your audience is willing to believe you. And similarly for the experts that you find out in the field, why do they become experts? What do they care about? Why do they love this field? And why do they want to tell people this is what you should care about in this field? Okay. You certainly want to avoid this notion that we're going to label objectivity, or people who are objective are, well, they think how we think, so they must be right. Right? If you would not go out and find sources that just parrot your own beliefs already, and they said what I want to say, they're telling me things that I'm looking for affirmation, or that what I feel is already right, therefore I'm going to listen to them because they're experts, because they believe what I already believe. That's not really the way to go about it in the world of intellectual ideas. Certainly, as Christians, you want to avoid just listening to Christian experts or thinkers or talkers just because they just already say the things that you already believe. There's certainly some value to that, and certainly in the world of like worship music, things like that. There's certainly a time and a place to be affirmed in those thoughts and emotions, certainly. But objectivity is not, well, you already believe what I already think about it, so therefore you're true, you're good, you're an objective source. Okay, avoid that sort of non-thinking, really. Okay. So, and then lastly, so that's just a whole lot of community authorities, and lastly, proximate authorities, which is basically eyewitnesses. I'm an authority because I was there. I'm at a close proximity to the event, to the situation, and therefore I'm an authority. I saw it. Okay, eyewitness testimony. Right? How do you evaluate it? Understand was that person in a position to observe the event carefully? Was there bad weather? Was there fog? Was there distractions, visual distractions? Was there noise? Maybe they didn't hear what they thought they heard in the first place. Maybe they thought they saw something, but it wasn't quite the circumstances to see it as well as they said they saw it, especially if it was years ago, something like that. Freedom to report. Are they coming forward? Again, as we said, evaluate why are they testifying. Are they telling this because they care and they were there and it's true? Or are they being pressured to testify? Are they being pressured not to testify? There's certainly quite a lot of John Grisham court case thrillers that in all sorts of TV shows about courtroom things in which eyewitnesses are being pressured not to testify, otherwise their family members are in danger and things like that. That's very theatrical, and that probably doesn't happen in real life as much as the world of TV wants you to think it happens, but it could be a factor, certainly in some situations, depending on the nature of the source or the case or whatever it is. So is this testimony, this eyewitness, are they free to report because it's the right thing to do? Or is there positive or negative reasons why they're testifying? Compare their account, their testimony with other eyewitnesses. The Bible even says, you have to have at least 2 or 3 eyewitnesses to corroborate what is being said. And of course we know, one of the sad things about the crucifixion is that none of the eyewitnesses gave a corroborating, story to tell about what Jesus was supposedly doing wrong. And even though, you can tell just how sinful the whole thing was and how desperate the authorities were to convict Jesus, because even though violating their own Mosaic law about having corroborating eyewitness accounts. So make sure your eyewitnesses corroborate, compare with each other. And again, examine the motives of the eyewitnesses. So the 4 tests, fairly similar to what we've said. Was this eyewitness expert in a good position to observe it? Was he really there, or maybe just read about it, skimmed it online, something like that instead? Were the conditions allowing the witness to adequately perceive the event? Was the state of mind of the witness conducive for accurate observation and reporting? Was it several years ago that this event happened, and maybe I can't remember quite as well as I'm thinking it may have been like this. I don't remember. First-hand witness accounts are somewhat dubious in that sense, right? And again, I'm not talking about contemporary political issues that are happening right now in October 2018. This is just in general, right? And is the directness of the source of the testimony, or is this actual eyewitness accounts? Or, for us, certainly as Christians, we've got, especially if you're reading the Bible in English, you are not reading a direct first-hand thing. If you're not reading the Bible in Greek or Hebrew, in the original languages, you've got more layers of indirectness between you and the testimony, right? So watch out for that as far as how good of an expert you can be and things like that, right? Is this first-hand accounts, or is it I'm reading a summary of what some online weblogger skimmed from other resources that were taken from accounts from the news that they got from a police report that was gotten from a family member who heard it from the person involved. 7 or 8 layers between you, the consumer of the information, and the actual direct source of the information. How direct is this information, is the source of this testimony? That's an important factor when evaluating the usefulness of eyewitness accounts, right? And so, car accidents, 2 or 3 or 4 different people see it, even from different angles. They can give corroborating evidence of, this car pulled out and ran a red light, and this is what happened, versus, an eyewitness testimony of an alien abduction. I was there, I was taken. Maybe you have vivid details of this abduction, but if nobody else was there to corroborate those, that testimony, people are not going to believe you, things like that. So eyewitness testimony is an important, valuable tool, especially if you're interviewing people that are experts directly, not just books and magazine articles that experts have written, but if you can have live conversations, interviews with eyewitness accounts to experienced situations and events. That can be a very useful tool, especially if once you've evaluated them and their credibility as an eyewitness, getting eyewitness accounts to whatever your situation is, whatever the nature of the event or idea is, proximate authorities can be very useful as well. Okay? And so we'll wrap it up next time with data, and then the next couple of videos focus on wrapping up and reviewing this whole quarter of invention.